In this video, I'm gonna recreate the YouTube logo, starting with the rounded rectangle that we have here. So I'm gonna start with, usually I would start with a high resolution image so that if I scaled it down, it wouldn't lose quality. But now for the sake of the speed, I'm gonna work on a white background with 1024-768, and I'll press OK. What I will do is go to View and show Grid. In case your grid was too big or too small and you wanted to edit the size of that, you go to Edit, Preferences, and Guides, Grid, and Slices. And here you can set the grid, for example, to be every 1 centimeter. Then your grid cells will be smaller. I'm going to keep them set to 2. And the subdivisions are how many little squares you have inside each cell. In my case, it's set to 6, so you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that's how you edit the grid. All right, I need to create a rounded rectangle to start with. So there's my rounded rectangle tool. The most important thing is to be in shape layers, otherwise you cannot edit what you will create. And I will select a red color, and there's my rounded rectangle. Now because I have snapping on, when you go to View and Snap, it means that you're gonna attach the rectangle to the sides of the grid. Now if you see that you have too much roundness, you can undo, you can change the radius, say down to 60, and then you would recreate, and that would give you a smaller radius. Now I would like to make the curve work for me from all sides. Therefore I would zoom in and I would go to my direct selection tool. Alright? If I click on a point, I can actually change the tangent. But here, I do have a tangent from the left, but I don't have a tangent from the right. It's because I have a straight line here. To actually convert this to a smooth line, I go to my Convert Point tool, which is found here, and I click and drag. Alright, when I do that, I still get the same roundness, but now I can actually go up 1 notch to the top. And I'll do the same thing here, go to the same extent and go up. That would make my work symmetrical. So I have 2 squares from here and 2 squares from there. I would do the same from this side. So I'd go up and 1 notch and apply the same thing. In case it twists, you go to the other side and you go like this. And I keep going. Until all of them are done. Remember to have the same spacing all throughout. Alright, so now I have a nice symmetrical rounded form. Let's look here. We see that this side is actually darker than the rest, and then you have the highlights. How can we make the side darker? Now if you look at the original, I have something called a gradient overlay which is applied. So let's look here. When I apply a gradient overlay, it means that I'm keeping this as a shape and therefore a high quality object. I don't want to rasterize, because if I try to fill with a gradient, it doesn't work now. If I tried to, it doesn't work. If I did rasterize, it would work, but I would lose the high quality now, right? Which is not what I want to do. So keep it as a shape and go to FX and gradient overlay. Now you have different gradients you can apply. Let's stick to the black and white for now. And I'm actually going to change the orientation, right? So I have black and white. I don't want to have black and white. I want to have red and darker red. So I'll change the blending mode from normal and go down till you have the color that you're after. For example, multiply will darken up your colors, and you can always change the opacity from down here, like so. Now you can click on the gradient and set this to a lighter gray so that it wouldn't be so dark from this side. So it's up to you really. And I'll press OK. Then I want to create the highlight, which is smaller. But I need it to have the same exact shape as the rounded rectangle. So control click on the icon of the layer to have a selection with the same shape, and I'll create a new layer which I'll call say highlight. All right, and I need to have the same form. I can go to select and transform selection, press shift and alt and go like this. In this case it worked, but if you look very closely, this side here is bigger than that one, because this is not really a perfect square. So that's not something that I prefer to do. I like to be more exact. For that, I'll go to select and modify and contract. So this will contract or shift inwards the selection by a certain amount. Let's say 10 pixels. So now from all sides I have the exact same thing, but I'm gonna undo and use 8 pixels instead of 10 because I don't want it to be too thick. All right, so if I look here, I have a highlight there and a highlight there, a lesser highlight at the other side. So I'll zoom out, Control H to hide the grid, but I want to keep the selection, so I'm going to hide it now. I'm going to go to my brush and go to my white color, and with a small opacity like 20%, I'll create the highlight here. So I undid so that I do it exactly at the corner 3 times, for example, and 2 times here. Control D, Control H, and there's my highlight. All right. The trick is to have a very big brush and soft at the same time, so that you wouldn't see the actual trace of the brush. Okay, the next thing is to carve in the tube text. It needs to look carved in like this. For that, I'm gonna type tube. I'll type it outside so that it doesn't get typed within the shape, and bring it down. Control T, Shift and Alt. Shift is to keep it proportional, and Alt is to scale it from the center. Say like this. The font that I'm using here is Myriad Pro Bold Condensed. Now, remember this is 200%. So if I go down, that's 100% where I see the perfect quality. But since these two are actual shapes, while this is not, but it won't really show because that's barely visible, I can scale up without losing any quality. The text and the actual shape will not choose quality when you scale them up. That's why we use shapes. The highlight is not really, okay, it shows here that you have a blurry edge. So preferably recreate this, because that's not a shape layer, but that's easy to recreate. All right, so there's my text here. I will apply FX and bevel and emboss. Go to 100%. And the type that I'm going to use is, let's try inner bevel with Chisel Hard. It doesn't really give me what I want. I'm going to choose between up and down. Chisel Hard, it means that it's not going to be soft, it's going to be hard edged. Let's try pillow emboss. Okay, pillow emboss gave me a much better result. And I can increase the depth, but not too much. I don't want it to look too fake. Something like this. Up and down, it's actually up, not down. I can increase the size, but that's not something that I need now. I can soften, but again, I don't want to do it now. And there is the tube text. Alt Shift, text, black color. We don't need the effect for this one. And just type U. And select everything. Go here. What if I wanted more space? I don't want to scale up the image. I just want to add more space. I go to image and canvas size. I want to do it horizontally, so I'll change the width in percentage, say to 150%. So just the width is going to be increased in size, and it's going to be filled with the background color, which happens to be black now. All right. Okay, it got filled with white because I chose to fill with white here. White. Otherwise, you can choose the foreground, background, or whatever. And there it is. You can now select all these layers. No, don't flatten. Keep them different layers for editing. And you choose new group from layers. And now I can transform the whole thing as one layer. I can double click to delete the background. And now I can save this with transparency. I can also crop it. And there is the recreation of the logo.